let me ask you something. Do you have pool floaties around you by chance?
Where the kid floaties at? Where the kids floaties? They do got floaties. Oh, they're around here somewhere.
Well, if you could grab your floaties here in the next couple seconds, we're gonna be swimming with the Loch Ness, Nate.
Swimming.
Bam. We'll deep dive. Let's talk about Tua's injury. He was injured late third quarter against the Bills on Thursday night. Ended up losing to the Bills, but Tua has had. If you don't know who Tua is, he's a starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. He's had 4 concussions in the past 2 years, which is really, really hard to see. It's concerning. So I'm gonna pull up a video to show you how he got concussed. Let me find it. Here we go. Oh no, I don't want that. Okay. This is like the closest I could get with Tua, so that I could show it. But he basically runs up, and DeMar Hamlin comes up, and his chest hits Tua right in the head, and you can see Tua's fingers curl up like we've seen before with Tua's concussions, and Tua might just have to retire. I mean, everyone's pointing to it. You had Nick Saban even coming out and saying, "Yo, he's gotta go. You know, he's got to retire. This is it for Tua." So I'm interested to see what you think, Nate. I want to go into his contract details. I'm going to tell you where the money's going to go because we know he just signed a contract here late July. So I'm going to show you what happened. Nate, what do you think about this?
It's not. Just seeing this is just. It's a tough one. It's a tough pill. It's tough to actually look at and stomach it. To be honest with you, knowing that the reality of the football is it's a competitive and volatile sport. Um, Being a guy that has had a concussion and has set out a whole 2 years of football from one concussion, played with guys, Luke Kuechly, who retired from concussions and whatnot. You don't want to see that. You don't want to see that from anybody. This man is a husband and father, um, a family man. But yet after a while, you have to do the balancing act. You have to balance. You have to, the scale. You know, you're a first round draft pick. You've made a lot of money. You have a means of providing for your family, and it's most important for you to be there mentally and physically for your family, to enjoy the moments of chasing your kids and again getting them ready for prom and their first dates, experiencing life and again celebrating the wedding anniversaries, the 10 years, the 20 years, the 30 years. So you have to weigh out the things that are important, because again, one of the things that we have to take into consideration and acknowledge is that football is a time sport. And when I say time, is that you're going to have your time to play the game and whatnot, but then it's going to be a time for you to walk away from the game. And I'm feeling highly that this time, it may be time for Tua to walk away from the game and go into that second career, and also just really start thinking about, his livelihood now. So I mean, don't miss the opportunity.
So let's take it back. Let's kind of go back in time a couple months past. Let's go back to July of 2024. We had to assign a 4-year, $212 million deal with $167 million guaranteed. And in my mind, we had a show about it. I said, how can you give somebody that much guaranteed money with the injury history of Tua? Is he going to get concussed again? Is it going to happen? If you didn't watch that show, go back and watch it, because the same thing I'm saying now is the same thing I was saying July before he got concussed again. Giving a player this amount of money guaranteed is dangerous. I mean, you're investing a lot in a player that could not play in the next couple of years. In week 2 into his contract, He's already down for the count. He's on IR. I mean, you don't know the return date for Tua now. I mean, you have no idea. There was no way to evaluate a psychological injury. So if we go back to his contract, 43 million of the 167 million guaranteed was a signing bonus. And he was supposed to get that signing bonus this year. Now, if Tua does not, he still gets the signing bonus, but the signing bonus is supposed to be paid in, I think, between 8 installments, maybe like five and somewhere around there. It's either 8 installments, 5 installments for 8 million, something around there. It's 5 and 8, the multiple of 43. So, I mean, you have those two numbers. It's going to be between 5 and 8 installments. He's going to get that $43 million. Okay. Well, then you have to take into consideration Tua is only going to get paid like $1 million this year because of his signing bonus. Next year, Tua is supposed to make between $25 and $41 million. So if you do the math, in the next year, Tua is supposed to get 124 million out of that 167 million. That's what's guaranteed. So 124 in 2 years is what's guaranteed to Tua. How does Tua get this money if he's out? How does Tua get this money if he's concussed? How does Tua get this money if he's injured? Okay. It's guaranteed, right? So if his name's on that paper, Tua's getting that money. Somehow or another, Tua will get $124 million. But the way he gets it is determined by his decision to retire. If he retires outright because of his medical condition, he will get the $124 million sometime between now and it'll be kind of however the Dolphins want to do it. But he'll get the money. There's no big date on it. There's no, like, say, the contract date. There's no date like, hey, we got to get him 124 by then. It's going to be a little bit more relaxed because Tua's not on the roster anymore. So as long as he gets his money, he gets his money. Okay. So we see a similar situation happen in 2019, Nate, when Andrew Luck was on the Colts. 2 years prior, he had signed a deal worth $122 million for 5 years, and $87 million of it was guaranteed. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, 2 years into it, in 2019, he signed this deal in 2017. 2 years into it, he gets a concussion as well. So 3 years left, Andrew Luck has $64 million left. This is a lot of numbers, so stay with me. I'm speaking a lot. It's a lot of numbers. He's got $64 million left in 3 years. Like the Dolphins, the Colts had a decision if they wanted to pay Andrew Luck that salary that he was promised that year. So say Andrew Luck was supposed to make $8 million that in 2019 of his contract. This number is not accurate. Say he was supposed to make $8 million. Okay. They had a choice to either give him that $8 million, or take it back because the NFL has a collective bargaining agreement that states they can do with the money as long as the player gets it in a set amount of time.
Yeah.
So, just a reasonable amount of time. But because the Colts, I guess, were in good financial situation, they elected to let Andrew Luck keep the salary he was owed for that year, and the $64 million that was left guaranteed was spread out between a certain amount of time, but it wasn't 3 years like his contract stated. So we could see the same happen for Tua. So me giving you those numbers, Nate, what does this mean for the future for the Miami Dolphins? Are they completely screwed investing all this money into Tua? I mean, you were on the Dolphins before. You know the culture of the Magic City, Nate. Let me know what you're thinking in Miami.
It's not that they would regret investing all this money in Tua. They drafted him 5 overall, and when Tua's playing, Tua's lights out. Let's call a spade a spade. When Tua's healthy, he is lights out. They're not screwed because, again, it's the next man up, and there's some good quarterbacks out there. I mean, I thought they were going to take a spin on Ryan Tannehill. I think it's some tread still on those tires. But again, it's the next man up mentality. It's just unfortunate, but you got to understand that this is part of the game. Injuries in all sports are actually a part of the game. And again, overall, if I'm Tua, if I'm in his circle, family, and again, I played with his cousin, Willie. in Arizona. It You ask yourself about your livelihood. You ask about the joy of life and what's important to you. Going out there competing on the field, it's important. Don't get me wrong, but being there for your family, because it's important. Being there for your family is more important than competing. So I think you have to weigh the options. Again, weigh the options in regards to health, your livelihood and whatnot. So yeah.
So, Nate, as a player of the game, you've been in it for 5 years, probably about as long as Tua now. This might be Tua's fourth or fifth year. It's probably his fifth because he signed a contract. Um, what is your advice to Tua as of right now? You got it? You got to give him a yes or no. Does he retire? Does he not? Look at the screen and tell me, Nate, what's the decision for Tua going into these next weeks, months, possibly years of his life?
Ultimately, you got to spend some time with God, and you got to have to, pray in that aspect for God to give you clarity and wisdom, and patience and perseverance. Um, if I'm Tua, I'm looking at how life is going to be. My life is going to be years down the line. Um, I don't sacrifice the opportunity to be a family man and to be a husband and father and to enjoy that title of being a husband and father, because it's more important than being a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Being a husband and father is it, it owns more weight. It carries more weight. Excuse me. I am really leaning towards retiring and walking away from the game and being blessed and fortunate that I was able to play the game, be able to make a nice amount of money to take care of my family, and I am going to enjoy being a father and being a husband. Uh, again, work in my community to give back to my community. There are other things you can do outside of playing football and whatnot. God has a greater calling, um, a greater calling than playing ball. You know,
And I couldn't say it better myself. There a lot of things that, and after documentary and stuff, although I wasn't on the field, I wasn't a football player, NFL like you were, Nate. A lot of these documentaries and these things about players with injuries. If you go back and watch the Concussion movie with Will Smith, if you remember that movie, I enjoyed it when it came out. But one of the things was, look, there's more to life than football. Uh, there's more to life than your profession, your career. I mean, although that's what probably pays for you to have the enjoyments you have in your life. You work this long week, all week, and maybe you don't like your job. Maybe you do. You get to do a little something extra on the weekends that isn't what you do all week. And so now Tua is being able to experience things like Nate was saying, like seeing his kids' first dates to prom, or seeing their kids drive off to college or something that he can remember. You don't understand, like, the amount of concussions that Tua's had in the last 2 years is crazy. I mean, it's more concussions than most have seen, especially with the new era of football. A lot of people don't get concussed anymore because of the safety protocols. It's only evolving. But now they're going to have to kick it into high gear and say, what is the reason Tua has gotten X amount of concussion in X amount of years? And so when you think about that and you ask yourself that question, it's scary because now you have to go into and figure out the answer to that question. And to see Tua the way he is, I hate it. I I don't want to wish injury on any football player. But if I had to say it, Nate, I think he should retire.
I mean, you have to retire. I was watching the game one time, and this was the year I think Luke, one of the best players I've ever been blessed and fortunate to play with. I think he had his third concussion in one year, and he walked away after the next year. After a while, you know, because after you have one concussion, you're susceptible to get another one, and it's easier to get another one. You got to look at the, you know, your livelihood and just, you know, just see how, just again, how's life going to be for you 10 years down the line?